What's your sobriety date?
My sobriety date is 3/17/2013. And that's March 17th, 2013 is actually St. Patrick's Day.
Wicked.
Is that wicked? Like like first of all, who gets sober on St. Patrick's Day?
Oh,
like
right.
nobody intentionally wakes up like, you know what? The day I'm supposed to be drinking is the day I'm actually going to make my sobriety date.
Are you Irish?
I'm Irish, yeah.
On St. Patrick's Day or actually Irish?
I'm Irish, you know. I'm a McLendon, you know, like my.
Can you say that?
Yeah, you know. And,
Right.
and then like, I just think that the day I arrived at, it wasn't like I picked out this day. I wouldn't want a special day. It was just a day I arrived at, you know, a treatment facility. It's like the first the first time ever I made a decision was that day.
So you went to treatment one time?
I went to treatment 2 times.
2 times. What was your get down?
Meth, heroin, pills. I'm a gutter, bro. It's whatever you had.
You're
you
a
know?
tall junkie.
Yeah, very
You would
tall
be a
junkie.
scary junkie going zombie down the road.
Can you imagine, dude? A tall junkie, no teeth, loaded hair. I mean, just straight and huge. Imagine me, you know, 50, 60 more pounds, you know, prison,
Fat, tall.
prison, all just like sucked, you know, big guy, scary, you know?
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. Seeing you now, you're like this clean cut, tall, handsome
Thank you.
guy.
Yeah. That just goes to show you like the worst of this program. Like I do not represent my past in any way. Like I grew the program, like I grew into a person maybe I was always wanted to be or needed to be, but like I don't like, I talk about this stuff that, you know, where I was and what it was like and all this stuff, but it's just like when you look at, when I go to my son's school or when I'm at work or when I'm doing all this stuff, people would never ever guess.
How old's your son?
I got 5 and 8.
So they've never seen you fucked up?
Never seen me fucked up, man.
I love that for you.
Yeah.
I fucking love that for you.
I enjoy fatherhood, being a father, and it's just one of the graces. I think, to me, growing up the way I did, and maybe all this trauma from when I was a kid, you know, that my sons are at this age now, that I think the only thing that could really heal me is by raising a kid and letting it like it's like therapeutic and healing to be able to be this father, to be this dad like I didn't have, and it's just I figure it just like heals all the stuff inside of me. It's like working with the newcomer or, you know, inside this program and working with somebody. Like I get to live with this kid who loves me unconditionally, who I'm his greatest hero, you know, like, you know, and just like, I'm just this example to this kid, you know, and
You're a leader.
Yeah, a born leader, 100%.
We were talking about this at lunch that, you know, 'cause you're tall. I made a joke in the storyline. You saw it, I'm sure, that you're the first guest to dwarf me. I'm a tall guy. And I stand next to you, and I'm like, wow, I feel kind of normal.
Nice. Yeah. But tall guys don't think I'm tall, but like for many, I didn't know nothing about, like I was so stuck in my disease and all that stuff. Like I didn't know how big I was, you know, or tall I was, or I mean, God forsaken that, like I could have used it to my advantage, you know, to probably, you know, excel in other areas of my life. But, you know, here I am. You know, it was all about drugs and the streets and all this stuff. And like, man, I didn't know nothing about performance or athleticism or anything like that. You know, like it. You know,
yeah.
Being tall is a real gift.
It is a gift. It is a gift. I'm thankful that I am all the time. Nothing against the short king.
I mean, all these short kings out there, we love you too. And hey, the shortest of the kings is usually the tallest guy's best friend. That's all I gotta say.
That's
man.
right. My best friend is I'm 6'5". My best friend is 5'6".
That's right, dude. Like we love you, short guys around us.
But there is something to be said about being tall and being a leader and having a commanding presence, and you have that.
Thank you.
But when did you start to step into that role? Because it couldn't have been year one.
Right. I think as in leadership and all that stuff, I think it comes. I mean, being big and being tall and those leader abilities, I think are something that just whether you know it or not, you're just a leader. It's not a leader doesn't. Does a leader really know? Like when you go into something purposely, like trying to lead it is one thing, but like when you're just like a natural, like is this something like and from maybe, I don't know, from all the stuff, ways of growing up and all this stuff like that I didn't know I was a leader. I didn't know I was leading these people, man. I was just trying to do the right thing, you know?
I've been talking about a lot that a leader leads from a position of authority and relatability. And I think it's a perfect 50-50 split, meaning that I know my shit because I've been there.
I like that.
And so for me, having the authority and relatability is super, super important. And you need to know how to balance the two. You won't hear me talk about balance very often, but balancing authority and relatability is the most key thing. And for us, as being tall guys, big dudes, commanding presence, but we've been complete fuck ups. We've been completely lost in our ways. We found our way, and now we can show people how to do it through experience. And that's why, as leaders, especially in the world that we're in terms of sobriety and recovery and the rooms that we're in and the people that we surround ourselves with, we have such an important responsibility. But if we can keep that balance of authority and relatability, people will, one, feel safe around us, right? Big dudes, protectors, all of that. Two, feel comfortable around us because we don't flinch at their bullshit, right? And three, they have a desire to be around us because of the way we make them feel.
I think too is also us being bigger guys and stuff like this is that for me I have to be like deep down we know, and especially coming from where I came from, and stuff like that is like I know what I'm capable of doing, like I know about hurting people. I know about being a leader in some bad ways, from experience,
Tell me about that.
And I grew up in the system and being in jails and institutions. And since I was in there, I was a bigger guy, and so a lot of guys were just drawn to me for this, because my presence in the other circles, you're just a leader. You're just a leader, and so like
just in negativity
and negativity. You're just you're fueled more on hate. And more on hate and more of toughness, and my size is dominating, and I'm bigger than you, so like you don't have no say so type thing, and having to unlearn all those ways, or some of those ways, as you come in here and you get into this program and a speech doesn't, you get to speaking on a more of a kindness and more of a lead by example and more, your experience, and all this stuff. And I think leadership is a quality that is some people don't want that responsibility,
You said hate. Were you an angry user?
Negative. No, I wasn't an angry user or anything like that. I think the drugs and alcohol made me brought me down.
Angry kid?
Not an angry kid, man. No. But I think when you're in jail and you get into this more of the hate of the negativity, of excitement. Like we like fighting.
So what was childhood like?
My childhood was I was raised by my mom. Parents got divorced at a young age. I was raised by my mom. My mom, drug addict. Like my dad was an alcoholic. I sort of, had the best of both worlds. My sisters went and lived with my dad, and I stayed with my mom on the other side of the track. So I grew up kind of with not having much, learning to have, just learning. I watched a lot of stuff happen. Mom, different boyfriends, drug use, being that little kid, just drag around everywhere with her. And then, I once I hit high school, I was already full-fledged and all into this, the streets, drugs, hanging out with older guys, looking for maybe that father figure, that example. I was hanging out with these leaders of out there in that world. And I would think it was just like my childhood, it was good, man. It was good up to a point, and then it wasn't. Motorcycles, spending the night at friends' houses, house parties, all this stuff, and the disease just takes over without a flinch. Like it was all that stuff, brought me to like I wanted to isolate myself from all that stuff, and the disease is I like that feeling of feeling good. I just liked that whatever it is, whether it was a drink, a hit, or a fix, a pill, whatever I stuck inside me, it just sort of made me so none of the outside stuff I worried about, and I was just comfortable with who I was, you know. And I think, all the years in and out of the prison system sort of just saved me, sort of prison preserved, you know. Now, I worked out, I get busted, you know, and I go to jail. I work out. I clean up. I work out. I get some, you know, some order in my life or, you know, direction in my life, and I get out and boom, right back to that disease and right back into prison. And right now I was just stuck in this vicious cycle.
California prison?
California State Prison Penitentiary, yeah. Lots 7, 8 of them, you know.
Which ones?
Chino, Ironwood, Tehachapi, Wasco, Delano, Lancaster, you know. So, in Tehachapi, yeah. And so, you know, but that's just all I knew. You know, all the guys I hung out with, I didn't hang out with nobody beyond that level. Everybody I hung out with basically was a convict at some point in their life. And then, you know, once I got addicted, I got addicted to the streets, man. Of making, I didn't have much, and so I learned how to flip a little bag, or you know, and you know, to buy a pair of shoes or to get a pair of pants, you know, or do whatever it is. But the disease, man, just it takes all that stuff away from you, you know. And I always had people, you know, leading, you know, my short kings, you know, trying to, you know, leading, you know, following my steps, you know.
Yeah, they probably used you a little bit too.
You let them, you know. Misery loves company, you know. Misery loves company.
You put yourself in the spot to be the show.
Yeah.
The tough guy.
Yeah.
The guy that does the stupid shit.
Yeah.
Right.
I think I just really, to me, I talk about it, man, all the time, the prison. And as you can see, and as you talked about in the beginning, like nowadays, it's like, that's not a resemblance of what I am now.
No.
It's who I was. And I think I always talk about it, and I talked about it for so much, like I really released that power and that grip and that hold and that lifestyle on me. Like no more, like you really, like you go to this phase and like it was like a part of me, it was like something, but now that's just a stage of my life that I went through. And now I use that, you know, like there's a lot of stuff that I take out of that. I have to, because I'm the positive mindset you got to have, the leadership abilities and all that stuff. I can't just think that all that was a waste. I can't be all negative about that. I have to take, what is it that I can get out of it, man? And what I get out of all that stuff, I mean, the disease is a disease. I was addicted from a very young age until I was 33, in and out of prison, all my 20s in prison, you know, like I robbed, I still manipulated, I cheated. Like I was a dirt bag. I was not, you know, like everything you can think bad, you know what I'm saying? I lived in the curb, like I was just everything you can think about, homeless, not homeless, you know, all this stuff, man. But and many years inside this jail, in this prison system, man. And but this is the thing, is that, you know, you go into prison, and what you learn is a certain lifestyle, and you learn this consistency pace of a lifestyle, which is like, damn, I still got this repetition, like it, you know, like what you wake up in the morning, and if you can, that you go to work detail, you come home from work, man, you work out, you eat dinner, watch TV, you go to bed, right? I wake up in the morning, I brush my teeth, I make my bed, I drink some coffee, I go to work. I still do that today, right? I still wake up, I work out, right? I drink my coffee, right? I still stay prayer. I was doing the same stuff at a little desk inside my 8x8 cell. Like, what was I doing? And I think about that now, like, damn, it's crazy how the same little, you know, stuff I was doing in there is like the same stuff I'm doing out here a little bit. You know, I get this repetition, this lifestyle of what could you take out of it, man? Like you know, and you know, the prison system, it teaches you, like I needed that to learn, because I didn't learn how to brush my teeth or make my bed or drink coffee. I wasn't learning all that on the streets, you know? I wasn't making my bed. I was on the streets at a very young age, so I wasn't no hygiene from a male figure. I wasn't learning all that stuff. I learned all this stuff inside the system, you know, and it wasn't until later, like, you know, I get into treatment, right? And it's the same thing. What are we doing? I'm waking up. I'm waking up. I'm making my bed. I'm drinking my coffee. I'm doing a spiritual reading of some sort, maybe prayer, meditation, and then I'm going about my day, right? And what am I doing today? damn, I wake up, I make my bed, I drink my coffee. Now is I'm not making no instant, my coffee is already ready, my cup's already ready, right? Everything's ready, and books are already laid out, and I'm doing this stuff, man. And it's like, it's crazy. I think about that, man. Like I think about that structure that you learn, man. And sometimes it was that little bit of structure that made the time just go by, man. Because sometimes you ain't leaving that cell. And that's all you have to do. That's all you can do is wake up and you have this little bit of thing and you do that morning routine, and then you work out for 3 to 4 hours a day, right? And then you read a book for another 3 to 4, 5 hours a day, and you're in this routine, man. And like, damn, like, and if I could still nowadays, like, damn, like we get out of jail and we get so far off from the basic necessities around in our life, man. Like I'm not waking up, I'm not making a bed, like you make, like I enjoy waking up in the morning and making my bed and drinking a cup of coffee and doing this morning routine, man. And I never knew about, and the main key word is just the routine. Like what daily routines do you have now that are just keeping you going in life, were you familiar with the routine or were you not familiar with the routine? But I know, like, I have to have like accountability to my routine in my life today. And it really didn't come out. A lot of that routine stuff didn't come out until I got sober, and I started going through the steps, and I got into this routine. And they're like, well, a routine for life is good, cool, we got to have that. But what about routine for recovery? Like, what do you have? Like, do you have a routine? Are you going to meetings on it, on a weekly, daily, or whatever basis? Like they say, like, are you going to? There's no way possible for me to go to as many meetings as I did get loaded, because I got loaded too much, right? And I drank too much. Like I would have to live in a meeting hall, and I somewhat did when I first, got out of treatment and all this stuff. But like, that routine, and all of a sudden, like, because what happens is, like, I got a routine for, I learned this routine for life. And it seems like now I have two routines, because I got this, and I got this routine for my recovery, right? Of being of service, helping other people, going to meetings, like fellowship, that's like, a commitment. Like I gotta have this consistency right there for my headspace, for this. So I feel, man, because I tell you, this is crazy. This still is crazy, no matter how much time. And I know that if I put too much of this, because life gets, man, I'm gonna tell you, like, for a guy or whoever, man, like your life gets back together, you're buying your first car, you're buying this, you're buying that, the family loves you, the family trips, like everybody wants your time. What's gonna happen? Like, what happens to that routine of program, man? It gets thrown to the side, man. I let the gifts of recovery get in the way of the gifts of recovery. And I'm wondering why I'm doing all this stuff. I'm happy, right? I'm happy. Everybody's like, damn, you're doing so good. You look at you, man. And the thing is that I'm miserable. I'm feeling miserable. I can't, like, I'm like, yes, everything is cool, but I'm not, my head's not where my feet's at, man. And I'm uncomfortable in the things that I'm doing and the people I'm with and all this stuff. And I don't know why, because everything's fine in my life, right? Bank account, all this stuff, man, and I'm missing, man, that routine, my recovery routine, man. Like you gotta have that routine, man. That one meeting a week, or two or three meetings for an hour, a day for a week, man. Just like it just keeps us present, And I just love, man. Even for me. No matter what goes on in my life, I like to keep, man. I gotta always ask myself, like, what's my routine like? Because routines change, Yeah,
they do. I think I fell into that for a little while. After about 2 years of sobriety, and you start to get caught up in, like, your life routine, and you let go of the recovery routine. And then the minute I went all in on myself again, I told you that, this most recent year has been a year of, like, severe letting go, has been a year of severe personal development and getting back into, like, why I even got sober to begin with. And all of a sudden, and I'm hearing people give me feedback about, because I'm on camera a lot, and they're saying things that they've never said before. The whites of your eyes are so clear. They're saying things like, your energy is completely different.
Well, I get that. People tell me all the time, damn, you are good looking. You are handsome.
Yeah.
Wow, you are such amazing. Like, where does that come? That comes from recovery for me.
Yeah,
you know?
it's an energy.
Like, wow.
It's like, yeah.
You're
like
a good dad. You're a good dad. Like, wow. It hits me. And I gotta be able to accept those moments like that, man.
Yeah.
Like, damn, that's like the gifts of sobriety are priceless.
But the year prior, I was just sober, and no one was saying that.
Mm-hmm.
What's changed? The energy that I put in is turning into the energy that's coming out, and it's being received differently because of what I'm doing for myself. And I think you can relate to that, where it's like when we do stay in our routine of recovery, we stay in our routine of personal development and growing ourselves and becoming the best version of ourselves. And quite frankly, and this for me is being independently happy and being comfortable with the man that I am, and being able to let go of things, relationships, certain desires, certain things, and being able to sit in my own shit, like we say, and actually smile. And be like, yeah, I can do this.
Yeah.
I can do this for a while.
Yeah.
And that was something I could never do. And in early recovery, I couldn't do it. And then my strongest point would have been like halfway through my second year, when like I really leveled up big time. But this year has been wicked. And exactly what you're telling me is exactly what you're saying is what happened to me, where I got caught up in the business routine and the life routine and the relationship routine and all of that. And something needed to break that pattern. And what happened for me, and I'm not really open to discuss it on this podcast, but at this point, and at this point, being able to like let go of everything that I felt comfortable in, and once again, almost start over personally. I didn't relapse.
Well,
I didn't go back out. But I realized that I need to go all in on myself.
I love that. I think that after a while, I think that we have to. There's this page in the book, man, and it says like the ebbs and flow of life are constantly up and down, but my recovery must stay the same. And life is life, man. And whether it's a constant ebb and flow for my life, 100%. And I think the only reason why I'm able to be, as you are, very strong, minded and very, like not like stuck in the emotional of all this stuff, is that I'm solid in my recovery enough, to not take things so personal, to be able to really take a look about what happened in my life and making decisions and not feeling bad that I made a decision or something like that. Like it really just makes me like for one, is that when I make a decision or I have to do something, man, like I personally, like I don't, like what, good, bad, or indifferent, that I'm the one that's in charge of it.
Are you a fast decision maker?
Depends on what the decision making is.
Really?
Yeah. Adrenaline? Yeah. Oh, good. Let's go let's go jump out of an airplane. So let's go drive the Ferraris. Oh, let's go ride our motorcycle. Let's go. But maybe when it comes to something else, financial or something like that, whoa, because for a lot of me, like I don't have a lot of maybe business or financial, or that's like a new area of my life I'm getting into now.
Yeah.
And so you're learning something. So I'm a little skeptical, about losing stuff that I may have now, so you're like, so it's like, and so this is beyond measure, is that I don't have it all figured out.
No,
I'm in the phases of my life that are so new that I have to, I need help just as much as I needed help when I was first in my recovery about how not to drink and how that, but now like all that stuff, like the desire to drink and use and all that stuff is gone. Like that old lifestyle is gone. Like all these behaviors are changing and all this stuff. And now I'm going into like a normalcy of, trying to buy a house or, doing all this stuff like financials, credit scores 800, how, like now I got these questions in those fields that are like, I couldn't stress on it enough.
You know how to solve it?
I asked somebody for help.
Same way you got sober.
I asked somebody, how hard that is For that's still
grown man,
a
right?
grown man. You know how hard it is for a grown man to ask another man for help?
Do you know, though, that there's not a single grown man that
Doesn't ask for help?
Well, yeah. Well, no. There's a lot of grown men that don't ask for help.
There's not one
But
successful man.
that would ever turn you down.
Yeah, 100%.
That would ever turn you down. Anybody that's successful, that's done it and has been there, would be more than honored to step in and help you and to make sure that you understand like that's and I found this out too for myself, that when I don't know something, it's like, who do I got to pay? Who do I got to find the person that does?
Yeah.
I learned this the best way I possibly could, and that was by investing into my own sobriety and my own self. And then I was like, wait a second. I ask for help. Maybe it costs me some money, but I get there faster. And it's like, okay, well, what did I say? Time will tell. Well, if you just take out the time and you just move, then you just get told.
Yeah.
And you get told what to do, and now you can have an outcome. There is nothing new, right? Like everything that you're experiencing, everybody's experienced, right? And getting sober and being in the system and all of that, maybe the different the different idiosyncrasies of your story. But at the end of the day, everybody had to learn the same thing at some point, and everybody was just as naive.
Yeah.
Right. But the difference is that now you're at a point where you can make decisions with clarity. Mm-hmm. You can make decisions spiritually. Right. You have a God of your understanding. You have a spiritual awakening. Right. Your conscious is actually fully functioning. Right.
Yeah.
And you're able to continue to move forward without. But the problem is that alcohol and drugs are not the problem for us, right? Mm-hmm. Alcohol and drugs are the solution, right? So now we have a whole new level of solutions that we're trying to
And
find.
I think you're just talking about those moments of growth, right? Those emotional things that we have to walk through, and nobody, and it doesn't matter how much help is on the way or how much people, it's like some things I think we just have to experience to get that, to learn from it, to be able to whether we're helping somebody else down the line, but like there's some things that I got a couple, your basic examples about death, right? Like, nobody can prepare you for that, and you might have friends and then something, but like when your family members or your mom, like my mom passed away, like that was detrimental. And there was, and everybody, lots of people, and they help you. And you help you, and there's like those times when I felt like, as much as I feel like a pillar, that at times that this pillar, I needed the hands of AA on me to hold me up, to keep me walking. And what happens is that you always come through on the other side, as long as you don't pick up a drink, hit or fix, right? But sometimes I think that the preparation of us doing the steps and working with the sponsor and helping people, like I think that it prepares us, like all of a sudden, through all that stuff. And it really brings you down to this, to like your higher power and your God. Like I walk through these experiences, and I believe that some experiences you have to walk through alone for that experience of emotional sobriety and stuff and such like this. And it seemed like at those times I was talking to a God I didn't know existed. Like I did all this work in my recovery, and I'm praying, people were big on God, and then all of a sudden it seemed like when I was searching for a God, that he was there because somewhere down the line that I picked up this this line with him, and I never, and what blows my mind is I never thought about taking a drink, hit or fix, I never thought about like anything foul or wrong. I just knew that I had to sit there and just feel these emotions. Emotions that, for all of our life, man, that I've been trying to block or hide or misdirect or anything like this, that I finally got to meet and interact with some true emotions, man, and just feel them.
One thing that I did that was super profound in early recovery is I wrote a letter to my 16-year-old self. Did you ever do that?
No, I haven't. I didn't do that, no.
I'm not going to ask you to do it right now.
I mean, if you have paper, like, why not?
Right here on the show.
I'll put it in the top titles, But I was in treatment for my first 18 months. I was in a treatment facility, And so I did lots of groups, lots of classes, lots of, and lots of work as a therapist. Like I did a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
And I'm just, I just did it.
What would first come to mind though?
If I had to write a letter to my 16.
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
You want to know what my first thing I wrote?
Yeah.
Don't be fat.
Don't be fat.
I said, don't be fat. And I can tell you right now that because I was a fat boy growing up, that it caused so much insecurity that it caused me to act out. The vast majority of my drug use and alcoholism was built off of me wanting to be the guy that could be goofier, be funnier, because I was so self-conscious about my weight.
I think that if it went back to my 16-year-old self back then, that it would be careful of the role models you choose wisely, because not every role model you have is looking out for your best interest.
Right.
And so like I wouldn't change a damn thing that happened through all my childhood. And by the age of 16, I was already full-fledged in it, and that disease and everything that came with it.
So you'd probably have to back up a little bit.
I would back up, and if I had to I would just, don't be so hard on yourself, Like there isn't much. Like if I had to go to like and talk about like, to my younger self, what like maybe spend more time with, that family's really important,
But if your families are also, intoxicated or polluted, then what good would that have done? You become a product of your environment. Here's my other question that I would have for you, and this is kind of maybe this isn't such a this isn't a nice one, but if you had nothing to show for who you were, if you had nothing going on in your life, what the fuck were you hard on yourself for?
I think that hard on yourself is that what
expectations were you not fulfilled?
I'm gonna tell you this is that me, since I started drugs and everything so young, that vicious cycle of drugs and alcohol and that feeling good and superior that it came with it, man, came at a very young age. And I don't know what, I really can't come up with something off the top of my head about what I would tell my younger self, but I know that a lot of that stuff that I'll say a lot that is that there was a point in my life when I was, I stayed with my mom. I was raised by my mom, and my dad was present, but my disease was like pulling me away from that father figure that I did have, right? And I think if I could have told myself, something like I think at a kid at a certain age, it's hard for him to make decisions to just figure out where he's going to go in the future. But I would have told myself that maybe, you should have maybe stayed with your dad or went with your dad.
I was just about to ask that question.
That way, that positive influence of maybe really what I was missing that as a boy who was 16 years old was just that male figure in my life that was actually my dad. Because you love him from a distance, you look back and all this stuff. Like I copied, I loved him. Like my dad was a business, just everything about him I loved. But maybe you're trying to prove him wrong, or his, whatever happened that interfered with that.
If I ask two, I don't think.
Come on, shoot it. Come on.
Question. But yeah, I think looking back at it, and I don't want to spend time in the past, but what a juxtaposition to be like drug addict mom bringing in new dudes all the time, right? Because I think that a dude having a mother that's bringing in new dudes all the time is probably going to create more chaos than alcoholic dad who is
more stable. I mean, a dad that's stable and has stuff together.
Did he?
Absolutely, 100%. My dad, 100%. My dad had everything. I mean, he worked. He had a business.
Were you given the choice?
Yeah, I was given the choice.
Did you pick mom?
I picked mom.
Have more freedom?
No, I picked mom. You know why? Because I think a young man growing up with his mom so long that he's not gonna leave his mom, and he's not gonna. You would have to literally pick him up and take him, Because I don't think boys are more attracted to their mom, and the mom figure of that love or whatever that is, the love, the nurtured aspect of it, to where I think the boy's always going to cling on to his mom, and his mom, and a boy's going to let you, and a boy's and as a protector, as a all that. That's where the man gets it from, right? Is that relationship with his mom, and I think that and me growing up like that, maybe it creates this future on down the line for my relationships and all this stuff is that dynamic right there, that more male would have changed it,
Yesterday, Freddie and I were downtown on Main Street, and we were at the liquor store, and there were these two young kids. What do you think? They were like 13 years old, and they didn't appear like they were from Huntington. They were kind of like
from the valley. No, I'm serious.
No, yeah. Probably. But I walked in with Freddie, and they were kind of like laughing at Freddie had his camera and stuff, and I was just grabbing like a Red Bull or something like that, and they were kind of looking at me like kind of giggling like girls, and I grabbed my Red Bull and I look back and I'm me, and I'm like, something funny, and they were like, no man, you're just jacked, and I was like, oh yeah. They're like, what do you do? And I was like, yeah, I just I help people out, stuff like that. And they're like, yeah, you look like you're rich. And I was like, all right, cool, thanks, man. And whatever. And it was like just cool. And they're like, do you have Instagram? And I was like, yeah, here's my Instagram. And they were like, oh man, dude, you're famous. And I'm like, not really, like whatever. And they're like, yeah, okay. And so then that was really it. And I was kind to them. I gave them Nux and whatever. And then I paid for my stuff. And then we left. And then we were walking back, and they were standing up on the corner, kind of dicking around. And then they stopped and like, hey, can we take a picture with you? And I was like, yeah, man, absolutely. So I take a picture with these kids, and then they were like, hey, what can we do to to be, what I forget the way they worded it, but it was basically like, how can we get out of the life we're in? And I just looked at them, I said, dude, just stay away from substances. And they said, yeah. They said, yeah, we know that's what our mom and dad, they do. And they're like, it's always around and stuff like that. And but when I said stay away from it at all costs, they looked as if no one's ever told them that before.
Yeah, I that would make sense.
And the way I always say things like that is like, it's a waste of time, dude. Like, you don't want to mess around with that. Stay focused on you. Like, go to the gym, whatever.
Yeah.
And,
well, I mean, a lot of ways too is that we get at somebody like that who maybe has never had no positive influence. Like I said, that routine, right? Their routine growing up, maybe from some drug addict parents or parents like that, you ain't finding them working out. You ain't finding them, the routine of a parent is a lot different, than say a person that maybe has a business, who works out in the morning, is responsible and does all this stuff. And so like sometimes it goes back to just that example.
Well, so I did not become a product of my environment. I became a product of my own insecurities. You became a product of your environment. I'm confused. I didn't know how to really react to a 13-year-old kid. I know what I would tell my 14-year-old son. Yeah. Right. You don't want to end up like I once did. Right. And I can guide him through, but he's not a product of that. And he wouldn't, that's not his environment. He's not around that. But how should I respond to somebody who is, because obviously their upbringing sounds a lot like yours. Right. How do you?
I think it's by I think a lot of it, and being like that, is just by being a good example of what a person should be.
But I had 2 minutes.
But in 2 minutes, though, but you're on your Instagram or what to follow, you walked in the store, your mannerisms and everything like that. Maybe it goes back to when I was telling you, that someone just giving somebody a hug and giving them some positive words and just being hey, what, sort of maybe in a detail, a couple minutes, being well, if they ask you something like that, what is it you do with your life? How do you wake up? What do you do? Do you work? Do you what is it you have going on in your life? Yeah. Because that sort of makes that. So if you're hey, oh man, what do you mean just like me? You mean what? You don't wake up and maybe do you work out? Maybe you should work out. Maybe it makes you feel better about ourselves because that self-esteem and that we all get that. We don't feel good. We're not, as you're talking about, and maybe push them towards that and be because I work out, right? Yeah. You want to be that example. And then what else makes us feel good? Oh, well, job and more. If you had a job too, because it gives you a sense of self-worth. And I think for a lot of us addicts and stuff like that, I had a very low self-worth.
Yeah.
You know? And
so that something you just said really kind of struck me, and now looking at it in the moment, when we took that picture, and I like grabbed them both like this, and I pulled them in really tight, and it was like it almost felt like they didn't want to leave, and I just like thinking about it now, it's like, did I miss? Like, could I have given them more?
I think that people like us who come up from like, I think I'm a giver.
Yeah.
I'm a natural. And today I took so much throughout my lifetime that I can do nothing but give on this lifetime, just like you. And we don't know. And the thing is I got to keep on giving to any and everybody I meet. And I don't, whether it's information, whether it's hug, whether it's love, you know, but because for so long I was a taker, and I coming into this program, they're like, you know, what is it you have to do? Like, what is it? Like, what is it? Like, what really keeps my self-worth? And me like feeling good now, and working out does that. But you know what helps? By helping other people, by being a good example, by taking some of this positive energy and this stuff I have, and just being kind to another individual, man. The kindness. They say that's you were just a perfect example of just someone who maybe there for so long, maybe they grew up with nobody ever being kind, no affection from home, right? And you were just like, man, let's get a hug. And they were just like, so like you probably don't even know the impact you had on these guys' life that day when you took a picture, man, and you brought them in for a hug, and they were just like so excited to meet you, and you were doing nothing but the one thing we learn here, right?
Yeah.
You're just being kind. You're just being kind. That's the impact we have on people now. Is that we were just a kind individuals, right? You can come at me full force, yelling with all kinds of hate and stuff like that. I'm gonna react kindly. I'm gonna keep my emotions in check. I know that I can. I know for a fact that I could go that route. I can match hate with hate. I don't want that no more, right? It's not that worse. That's not going to do nothing, you know? And I just think that being a good example of like, man, I talk about, man, like giving somebody a hug, you know, and just being kind to them. Like, hey, if you want a soda, you want a lunch, you want a coffee, is there something I could do for you right now? You know, besides giving you besides telling you that, you know what, like I believe in you, that there's people out there that really want to see you succeed, you know? Because when you're down and you get no affection, like that love, like we come from these negative and no affection, like affection feels weird. No difference. It's like, whoa, what was that? Like we're not used to somebody being kind to us. Are people kind to you today? Like today now, like how many people are actually kind to Justin? You know, like when you're going and you're about your day and you're out there like that, are you just walking? Are you blind to see like the simple, that it costs no money. It's nothing about what you have in your bank account, what you drive, where you live, or nothing like that. It's just being a good person.
Right.
Right. And that takes trump over everything. I just know for a fact that I just have to be. I work on every single day. It's just being a good person, man. Right? Return that shopping cart at the grocery store. Right? I tip whoever needs to be tipped. Right? And it gets out of control with tipping.
Oh yeah.
But right, it's out of control, bro. But like that, sometimes I'm like, damn, really? You know.
That's why I can't carry as much cash.
100%, because I'll give it all away, right? But being a kind, person, like, are we helping people I mean, like the thing, like you either help them with money or you help them with your time. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just helping people. I just, it's like, it's cool. It's like we build these great lives and we live very, 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 very good. And we're able, and this is the thing, is like, I wake up every day and I'm happy for who I am today. I live in gratitude, bro. I'm grateful for what I have in my life, not for what I don't have, for what I have in my life, man. And I'm grateful for the opportunities I'm learning and growing and for all the stuff that I'm learning how to live in areas where I never thought I'd ever be living, right? And I think beyond all that, though, are you just being a good person, man? Like we have to like these for the people who are out there like who think that they see people like you or me or somebody even bigger than us, and they think that those people, right? Those people, right?
Yeah.
They think we're a problem. They think they can never be. I came from absolutely nothing, man. I got one of those stores, man, from nothing, man. I had a paper jumpsuit, some bright green boxers, some Fight Life shower shoes, some indigent envelopes, dude. I arrived at a treatment center and I built my life from that. 12 years, man. No bank accounts of my name. 106. I couldn't have a driver's license. I couldn't have a car. I didn't have a bank account. I never had a cell phone for longer than and people we're here to let you know it's possible to change the direction of life, to be able to flip a switch from negative to positive, to stop living in that stuff that you went through, like that you stop living in all that, in this misery that you created, man. You get over the past and you stop thinking about it, and you stop thinking that it's this person owes me, or I did this wrong, man. I forgive myself. We move on and we start living in the day we're in, dude. And we're here today. We're just living in the day we're in, dude. And we're here to make a difference in people's lives when the opportunity comes, man. I'm here. I do a panel at this. I never thought, first of all, being a convict and doing all this stuff, that I ever be able to go inside into the jail system or be to do. I do this panel inside this place, man, inside the jail, man, and I'm gonna tell you, man, it's that fulfillment you get by walking in there or walking out and being able to talk, man. There must be 40. It's a packed house every time I show up. I show up every month, and I go in there and I talk to these guys, and these guys are just like me. And I can go in there and I can get real and I can get raw and I could be sort of, and I can get soft and I can get vulnerable and I can let them know, man, that there's a different way out there. And that's the same thing we're doing, man. It doesn't matter what we got. We're here to help you, man. And we constantly, man, we're here to help, man. We're here to help. Because you know why? Because someone helped me. People helped me. People did stuff for me that I could never pay back. And they said, you know what? You just had to pay it forward to the next individual. The same, and it's like what, and the time. I don't want to brag. I don't want to talk about none of that stuff. But I'm gonna tell you, man, people did stuff for me that I could never do for myself, man. Financially, emotionally, and there was nothing I could do to pay. They didn't want nothing to pay them back. No, nothing. They said do it for somebody else one day. One day the opportunity, and I had to believe like, nah, there's an opportunity. I'll never have that much to be able to get somebody, this.
Well, true grace, true gratitude is not transactional. Mm-hmm. In fact, making grace or not gratitude, but generosity, true grace and true generosity is not transactional. Mm. As a matter of fact, the minute that you turn it into something transactional, it becomes a business transaction. It's not even a real thing anymore. It's not even, I always say, like, you can't offend me unless I pay for lunch and you say, I got you next time. Yeah. You tell me I got you next time, I'll tell you, lose my number.
There'll never be a next time.
There won't be a next time. Yeah. But if you eat the fuck out of that steak and enjoy everything about it, and I get to watch you just really take it in and be excited about the moment you get to spend with me and all of that, I want to buy all of your meals.
Nice.
And so true grace, true generosity is not a transactional thing. Love is not a transactional thing. And for most people, they're wired to make everything about, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. And what you're telling me is that it's my expectation is, let me show you grace so you can show the next person how to live, or grace, or generosity. Mm-hmm. And that's the right way to live.
Amen. And that's this how we live. And I have one example of, and I'll probably just end it with this, but we have one example of the program, for me is that I grew up, from used to dirty county jails, prison, and all this stuff, and I learned how to shave my head with this orange grenade razor blade, and I never asked another man, but I used to watch these other guys, and I watched how they shaved their heads, and they do it off, they took the tip off, but how they did the soap and everything like this. And when I got out, I never had no man, no model male figure teach me, you had too much pride, too much ego, we just use axe, But I get sober, and I'm with my sponsor, and I'm at this retreat, and I'm shaving my head the way I learned in prison, right? It's the only way I know how. It's the only way I know how to shave, the only way I ever learned, the only way that I perfected it, and I perfected it with cutting my head up, blood be coming down, I toilet paper it all up, or get a hot towel and put on it and all this stuff, and this man sees me, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm shaving my head." And he's like, "Stop." He's like, "You got blood everywhere." He's like, "Has anyone ever showed you how to shave?" And I looked at him, he caught me off guard, really. He's like, "No." I was like, "No." And he said, would you be able to clean up this mess and let me show you how to shave? And I said, "Yeah." And this man came with a new style razor, and he came with this gel, and he came with all this stuff, and he showed me how to, shave, and without cutting any nicks or anything on my head, and that same thing goes for life pair. That for us that have been in the disease and all this stuff is like, are you able to take that way we grew up, like something that we knew, that we hold on to, that this is about life for me, is that all that stuff I think I know about living. Are you willing to set that aside and let someone show you a new way to live?
Oof.
Right? And for me, all it is this, man, there was enough of me out of the way that day that this man has showed me something that I thought I knew for all my life. I got it. And this man just showed me a new way to do something I already know. And that this program it's just showing us a new way to do something we may already have, we may already know how to know. And I gotta have the patience, the love, and the tolerance, and the kindness, and the acceptance of just being able to accept that and let somebody teach me a new way to live, man. And I'm forever just learning, man. And the more I'm able to allow all these new experiences, a new way to do stuff, and let the more I'm able to surrender to all that stuff in my past and become this new person today, And that's what keeps me going, man. And they say, and as by us showing you all this stuff, there's only one thing you got to do, man, is you got to teach the next man. That's it, man.
Guys, if you enjoyed this show, make sure you click subscribe. We're going to put all of Garet's contact information below. Thank you so much for tuning in. This was fucking awesome. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
You're welcome.
Catch us next time on the Justin Wenzel podcast. We're out.